Hello, thank you for joining me for another Dear Sam Help Horsemanship Series video. Today what I wanted to talk about was the concept of being responsible in all aspects of horse ownership, or equine participation, we'll say. I'm gearing up to hit on the road for a 1,400-mile road trip. It's something I've been doing twice a year for the past 20 years. And at this point, a lot of things are very familiar, things, as far as logistics and decision making and how things unfold. It becomes very fluid because there's enough years of doing this. Some years I would travel with 10 horses and dogs and cats and sometimes even chickens and donkeys and mules and all kinds of things. So it was a traveling zoo. But these recent years, I've been downsizing and traveling with much fewer horses, mostly clients' horses. But as I was packing and doing the logistics coordination and checking weather and, trip preparation, it really was a good reminder to me of how many people I encounter that have this degree of removal in really what is happening to their horse, especially for people who wind up boarding their horses where they don't have access to their horse 24 hours a day. They can't just, look out over a cup of coffee and watch what their horse is doing type of thing. There are a lot of things that tend to happen where owners kind of put the responsibility on other people, whether it's barn managers or people running the facility or trainers, instructors, anything like that. And I find, this has come up a couple times this week because I was discussing with some other folks about people who had to put down a horse and the decisions that were involved with that, and getting to a mentally and emotionally okay place, knowing that was the kindest thing to do for this horse who was in a tremendous amount of pain, and how difficult it was to reach that point. But having been through it, now recognizing they could have made a different decision much sooner in helping that horse and having more information, and then continue making decisions rather than waiting to see. I find sometimes people wind up being hopeful when it comes to uncomfortable things, like whether it's breaking up with the farrier, whether it's finding a new vet, whether it's maybe finding a new boarding facility because the one that you're at is either causing you or your horse a lot of concern, when you're showing up, or whatever the politics might be, or whatever is going on. I just find that in our human nature, we tend to try to avoid conflict and drama because we're looking for this inspiring, calm, peaceful experience with our horse. And yet so many different aspects of horse ownership require continuous assessment, decision making, proactive, taking the initiative in doing what's best for the horse. And sometimes that means going against the grain. Sometimes that means going against what everybody else is doing. Sometimes that means questioning the system of what everybody is doing or how they're doing things, whether it's feed and diet, whether it's lifestyle and turnout and versus stalls, keeping horses in stalls. I mean, it can be a whole variety of things. But my thought today in doing this video was really to try and motivate you to perhaps take a step back and really assess how many different things there are that affect your horse, and remind you that your horse is completely at the mercy of your decision making, which includes when you don't make decisions. So, if we start seeing changes in our horse's behavior, or we start seeing things that surprise us, or we start becoming, in our own experiences with the horse, overwhelmed, stressed out, distracted because of the circumstances going on with wherever the horse is at, we need to allow ourselves permission, but we also need to be our own biggest cheerleader, in the sense of saying, I need to do right by my horse. I am my horse's voice, and whatever it is that is most appropriate for me and my horse is what I'm going to do, versus am I bothering other people who are going to question my decision making? Am I going to offend the vet, the farrier, the trainer who I'll say breaking up with because I'm finding their methods or approaches aren't helping my horse and me progress in a way that I'm feeling safe and building confidence and wanting to do more with my horse. Sometimes we have to take a step back where maybe initially we felt we were having success with whoever our, I'll say, support group of people are in our lives, but I don't ever want people to get comfortable in the sense of, I made a decision, even if it's in regards to like things like saddle fit. This came up at a recent clinic. Sometimes we finally find the saddle that works for the horse, and then we suffer for 4 or 5 years in this uncomfortable saddle that doesn't fit us because we're trying to do best by the horse without realizing the trickle down consequences of us trying to get out of the way of this tack that's physically limiting or causing pain issues for us sitting in the saddle, and how much miscommunication is happening between us and the horse because we're so focused on the tack and how it's affecting us and our aids and so on, and that our good intentions of finding the saddle that fit the horse, and going, okay, I'll sacrifice myself and I won't deal with it, and realizing that really the horse is still paying the price because we're creating all this chaos and tension because of our discomfort when we're in the saddle. There's so many things that can come up continuously. Feed and diet. You can have the same person who's producing hay if you have your horses at home, and it can feel like it's successful and you're happy with the hay and so on, and then years later things change, and we have to be open to change. We have to be open to how we used to do things may not be appropriate either for us or our horse nowadays, and that this is a continually evolving journey. And I just wish more people were reminded of that. This is not I made a big decision, however long ago, and now I'm forever sticking with that decision. Often, the more we can get comfortable with making decisions, the more available we are to kind of zoom out and assess continuously as things are progressing over time, whether it's horses' mental health, emotional health, physical health, quality of lifestyle, whether it's our own experience and what we're getting out of the horse, interaction time and how that's affecting us. But we need to take care of ourselves and we need to take care of our horse. And, I get a lot of people who question things like, how can you just like load up all these horses and drive them across the country? And it wasn't one day that I randomly started driving horses. It was years upon years of building up shorter trip segments and learning what life on the road was like, and what do you do when unexpected things come up, and how do you find help when you're on the road with animals. And those little segments are what build the confidence to be able to go out. It's not a guess of let's see what happens, but there's a confident feeling of whatever comes up, that I will deal with it and I will make decisions, and I will keep making decisions until we get through whatever the experience might be. And if more people could carry that type of approach, even if you're not choosing to drive horses across the country, but in any and all aspects of their horsemanship, the outcome would have a very different feeling in the equine partnership. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining me, and I'll